Have you ever wondered if we could talk to animals? I mean, really talk to them in our own language? Well, in the 1960s, one woman embarked on a journey to do just that, living with a dolphin for 10 weeks in one of the most unusual and controversial science experiments of all time. This is the incredible story of Margaret Howe and her life with Peter the dolphin. Our story begins in 1964 on the island of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. A young woman named Margaret Howe, barely in her early 20s, found herself drawn to a secret laboratory hidden away in the hills. This wasn't just any lab. It was the Dolphin House, run by the eccentric neuroscientist, Dr. John C. Lilly. Lilly was funded by NASA and was obsessed with a groundbreaking idea: that dolphins, with their large brains and complex social lives, could be taught to understand and even speak human language. Margaret, with no formal scientific background, but a deep love for animals, walked in and volunteered. Her persistence paid off, and she was hired, becoming a key figure in this wild experiment. The lab was home to 3 dolphins: Peter, Pamela, and Sissy. While other researchers worked with all 3, Margaret formed a special bond with Peter, a young male bottlenose dolphin. The early stages of the experiment involved daily lessons. Margaret would try to teach Peter to mimic human sounds, rewarding him with fish and affectionate rubs. Progress was slow. Dolphins produce sounds very differently from humans, using their blowholes, not vocal cords. Peter tried his best, making gurgling, squeaky attempts to copy words like hello, 1, 2, and 3. Margaret believed she could hear the rhythm and inflection of her own voice in his attempts. She documented every sound, every interaction, meticulously. But Dr. Lilly felt the daily lessons weren't enough. He believed that for true communication to happen, the human and dolphin needed to live together 24/7. This led to the creation of the flooded house. An upper level of the lab was renovated and partially filled with 2 feet of seawater. There was a desk, a bed, and a shower for Margaret, all suspended just above the water surface, and an elevator shaft that allowed Peter to swim up from the tank below and join her in her living space. For 10 straight weeks, from June to August 1965, this became their world. Margaret and Peter were roommates. Life in the flooded house was a routine of constant interaction. Margaret would sleep on her mattress, with Peter often sleeping in the water right beside her. They played games with balls and scarves. She would talk to him constantly, narrating her day, reading to him, and conducting their speech lessons. The goal was to immerse him in human language, hoping he would absorb it like a child. Margaret was his teacher, his playmate, and his primary companion. She noted that he seemed to recognize himself in a mirror, a sign of self-awareness that was groundbreaking for the time. He even seemed to get jealous when she spoke on the phone, interrupting her with loud squeals. However, living in such close quarters with an adolescent male dolphin brought unexpected complications. Peter began to exhibit natural mating behaviors, rubbing against Margaret's legs and body. This became a major distraction, disrupting the lessons. In what became the most controversial aspect of the experiment, Margaret, with the consultation of the research team, decided to manually relieve Peter's physical urges herself. To her, it was a practical, non-sexual solution to a biological problem, a way to get the experiment back on track. She saw it as similar to a mother caring for a child, or a pet owner tending to their animal's needs. But to the outside world, decades later, this part of the story would overshadow much of the science. As the weeks went on, the bond between them deepened. Margaret described it as a truly profound connection. But the experiment was incredibly expensive, and funding from NASA and other sources began to dry up. Dr. Lilly's research was also becoming more controversial, especially as he began experimenting with LSD on the dolphins, though Margaret was firmly against this and never participated in that part of the research. After 10 weeks, The money ran out. The live-in experiment was over. Margaret had to say goodbye. The separation was heartbreaking. Peter was moved from the vibrant, stimulating environment of the Dolphin House to a much smaller, darker tank in Dr. Lilly's Miami laboratory. He was separated from Margaret, the one constant in his life. The change was devastating for him. Just a few weeks after the move, Peter died. The official cause was unclear, but Margaret and others who knew him believe he died of a broken heart. They felt he had essentially chosen to stop breathing. Dolphins are conscious breathers. They have to actively decide to take each breath. Margaret believes that in his despair, Peter simply let himself sink to the bottom of the tank and stopped trying. The end of the experiment and Peter's death deeply affected Margaret. She retreated from the world of animal research, the experience having left an indelible mark on her. For decades, her story was largely forgotten, a bizarre footnote in the history of science. It wasn't until a 2014 BBC documentary, The Girl Who Talked to Dolphins, brought her story back into the public eye that the world began to grapple with the complex legacy of the Dolphin House. The documentary sparked a whirlwind of media attention, much of it focusing on the controversial sexual aspects of the experiment, often taking them out of context. Margaret found herself having to defend her actions and intentions from over 50 years ago. Today, Margaret Howe lives a quiet life. Looking back, she doesn't regret her time with Peter. She remembers the joy, the connection, and the genuine belief that they were on the verge of a breakthrough. She maintains that their work was about communication and understanding, not exploitation. The Dolphin House experiment remains a powerful, cautionary tale. It raises profound ethical questions about the limits of scientific inquiry and our responsibility to the animals we study. It pushed the boundaries of interspecies communication, but at a significant cost. The story of Margaret and Peter is a story of love, ambition, and tragedy. It forces us to ask ourselves, how far should we go in our quest for knowledge? And what do we owe the intelligent, sentient beings we share this planet with? It's a reminder that sometimes the most important lessons we learn aren't the ones we set out to teach, but the ones that teach us about our own humanity. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please give this video a like and subscribe for more deep dives into the most incredible stories from history and science.